awesome. We have a sequel to GoTo Biz Resources, Peers and Pros. We're excited about this. Backed by popular demand, we have Adam.
Backed by popular demand 15 minutes later.
I know. It's awesome. You know, we had so many views on the first one. We thought we'd bring you back while we're still here.
Wow.
This is great. So I apologize, but you know, the wonderful thing about doing live stuff is you may have technical glitches. We'll make sure that we marry the two videos together, but we just got to the question and just started talking about Village Square and actually how the ecosystem of resources fits together here.
Yeah. Well, and you know, one of the things that the way we approach it is very much that the success of the ecosystem rests on the connections of human beings, right? And so we focus really directly on how do we create authentic, meaningful connections between people. And so that's kind of at the heart of it, and you know, just trying to do the best we can. So we do, and you know, the Village for a long time was kind of this front door to the startup community. We get all these inquiries and give all these tours. And so what we really try and do is make it personal, make it exciting for them, and then help connect people in. So one of the things that we did that kind of brought all of this community connecting, trying to centralize it in some ways. We actually just recently rolled out the Kansas City Startup Community Guide. I don't know if you saw that yet, but it's on Startland just within the last week or two. And so it's just a central place for all of the recommendations we make one-off to try and really put it into a digestible form. So we even have a one-page checklist of how do you get plugged into the startup community, because that's one of the biggest questions. It's hard to get plugged in. And so whether it's visiting SourceLink or going to 1 Million Cups, or which events are kind of the best ones to connect. So we've really tried to, what we've done on one-on-one basis now is trying to get that information out so that more people can have access to that. So.
Well, I think you're exactly right when you said earlier in part one, when you said that there are so many resources out here focusing on the ecosystem of connecting education and government and business and the entrepreneurial system, being able to do that. There's so many resources. It's kind of overwhelming, especially if you're going to start up, or even if you're started, but you're a micro enterprise and you're developing to grow.
Right. Well, I think the thing beyond that is there's a ton of people that are just curious about it, that may have no intention or idea that they want to be an entrepreneur, but it's still important to make it accessible for them, right? So Startland News begins to make that easily accessible, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, to students who may or may not want to be entrepreneurs. It's important that we're thinking about more than just those that say, I want to be an entrepreneur, because that ecosystem, if the only people focused on that are those that say, I want to be an entrepreneur, there's not the support there that's needed, right? If the corporate community that are not mostly entrepreneurs, doesn't engage, we are missing a very important piece of the ecosystem, right? If government employees that aren't entrepreneurs don't know what's going on and don't engage, perfect example, right? What you guys are doing, right? Wouldn't exist. And so it's important for us to translate this entrepreneurial world, and that's one of the things that we think about a lot. I think everyone agrees entrepreneurship is good. By and large, it's not a political issue, right? Like it is good. I think the kind of early stage part of it is kind of the sexiest part, right? It's the most exciting, high energy, fast paced part.
It's the theoretical part too. So you can get lost in that, in that complete
and theatrical.
Right? Oh my gosh, it's the most dramatic.
But I think if we can use kind of that really exciting part to get people engaged, then I think that we can really build something special. And I think all of entrepreneurship is good, whether it's Main Street, whether it's lifestyle businesses or startups. But startups are kind of that highly engaging, really, really exciting part. And if we can use that to be the lure to get people pulled in, I think that's a lot of the mindset behind what we do. But ultimately, it's about just how do we build a progressive community, not from a political standpoint, but just forward thinking, solving problems to make our community stronger.
In your time with CEED, has there been any unexpected successes or anything that just kind of came out of left field for you? Any examples of something you're like, wow, that was really interesting?
I mean, nothing we do was this master plan, right? Like, it's all just been observing its impact on the community. So Mecca Challenge, the work we do in education, it started as a 3-day event, and it was simply connecting students to startups. That was the meaning behind it. We think that's important. It was 3 days, we did it 2 years, and it took a ton of time, and we had like 40 students each year, and it was like hardly worth it. But we piloted a 1 day to see if we could scale it, and from there, it's become so much more than connecting students with startups. What we actually lead with now is we want to transform education, because students aren't coming out of school with the skills they need to be successful in the 21st century, right? We're still operating on a factory model that was built over a century ago. And so if we can use kind of the startup community and the entrepreneurial community as a catalyst to get people engaged and think differently, and the end result is transforming education, right? So it's amazing that, and last year we did 16 of these and reached over 900 people, 200 of which were teachers. So we're actually training the trainers now. So,
well, that's one of the things that I think is most fascinating to me is actually the definition of entrepreneur and how that has morphed and changed. Because when that it's always been a word.
Right.
Entrepreneurial hasn't always been a word.
Right.
It's kind of like saying forwarded to me.
Right.
You know, forwarded.
Yeah.
Forwarded.
Yeah.
So when we talk about entrepreneur, and you brought up a great point, it could be lifestyle, it could be Main Street, it could be fast-paced, high, something that's highly scalable. But we can't discount that mindset and that commitment that it takes to grow a business really does take a lot of support and groundwork for not only the entrepreneur and the business, but for those of us that are resources around.
Totally, and I know, that it's confusing and all these things, but I think the kind of entrepreneurial community is this microcosm of a community that everyone would love to be a part of. It's passionate, driven, collaborative people. And I think everyone would love to be a part of that. And if we can use that little microcosm as a catalyst for positive change throughout our community, I think it's our duty as those that foster this community to do that. And we just try and play our part.
And it has to do with ownership.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line of it, is owning what you do, what you're responsible for, what your neighbors, being responsible to assist that neighbor in that community too. So,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I have a question. What can I, in my personal life, or the folks watching now, they're not entrepreneurs, they're just kind of curious about, what would you suggest that we do to help your mission?
The important thing, so much of it is, as a kind of conservative corporate town, you tend to kind of keep your head down and worry about yourself. And I think so much of it and what we do is just building awareness of what's going on. Educate yourself, come to an event, meet some people. I think the energy is infectious, and from there, you keep wanting to be a part of it. That's it is, be a part, follow along on Startland. If there's something that's interesting, reach out to one of the entrepreneurs to learn more about what they're doing. Come to the events, come to 1 Million Cups, participate. I think that's the big thing, because it's always changing, right? The work we do, we have no idea what we're going to be doing in a month. So saying, here's exactly what we want you to do.
With that next phone call.
Right. We don't know. And so I think it is choose to care first, engage. The work this community is doing will transform Kansas City for the better.
Yeah.
And I think we need to leverage what we are naturally good at: the hospitality, the work ethic, the humility, but layering on top this kind of opportunism and progressive thinking and problem solving, I think is needed in the 21st century. And I think as a result, Kansas City has quickly become one of the most talked about up and coming entrepreneurial communities. And I think it's by leveraging what we're good at, but being honest with what we struggle with and being aggressive about changing that.
So those events and stories found on
Startland News.
No,
Yep.
well, thank you so much for joining us, Adam. We really appreciate it for part 1 and part 2, the
Yeah.
sequel.
Yeah.
So this is a first. We're very excited. Maybe this is a new format.
Hey,
I just
yeah.
don't know.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. So back by popular demand. I
Yeah.
like it. But thank you very much for joining us on the GoTo Biz Resources Pros and Peers, and we really appreciate learning from you and introducing, as we said, CEED. Watch out for CEED. Watch Startland News, and that's CEED.
Yeah, CEED.
CEED.
Yep.
CEED.
The Center of Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Development. A lot of big words.
There's a lot of big words. That's why we go with
Yeah.
CEED.
Yeah.
So we like our acronyms too.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for making a difference in the ecosystem for Kansas City, for the startup area, and for small businesses scaling. So we appreciate your time today. Thank you all to the audience. For those of you that have watched us live, and for those of you that are watching us at your own time convenience in your own home or at your business, please join us next time. We'll be on air on March 23rd at forgot the time, but so go to the Innovation Center and look for the event. We'll be joined by Tim Dinker with Lex Law, and he's going to be talking to us about starting and scaling and looking at the right format to do that in from a legal perspective.
And I'll just say, in addition to them being amazing resources, if anyone is curious about getting plugged in to the startup community or any of that, don't hesitate to reach out. We have a completely open door.
Right.
My email is adam@seedthefuture.com, CEED thefuture.com. Reach out. Happy to plug you in as
That's
they
awesome.
are.
Yeah, thank you very
So,
much. That's
yeah.
great. Well,
So.
thanks everybody. We'll see you later.